Burlington Fox Hill Elementary School Building Committee meeting on March 18th to order. I do not have anyone in the room for public comment, nor online, so we can jump right in to the February 25th meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions or comments on those? And, Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Ms. Kasha?
Abstain.
Mr. Kuna?
Aye.
Mr. Denizio?
Abstain?
Mr. Rosenblatt? I saw him.
Was there, but no.
All right. Mr. Villano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Abstain.
And, all right, I vote yes. 603. All right.
Is that enough votes?
Bob, it's not letting me share.
Yeah, it's 9.
It's fine.
Because my,
It's only minutes. I've checked before.
Oh, David, do you want to vote on the minutes?
Yes.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
703. All right. And invoices.
Do you want to do all the Danisco?
Yeah, do all of them, let's go
All
together.
right. So I'll make a motion to pass Danisco invoice number 10163 in the amount of $346,200 for design development 505. Invoice number 10164 in the amount of $9,157.50 for geotechnical services testing. Danisco invoice number 10165 in the amount of $9,157.50 for geotechnical services final borings. And Danisco invoice number 10166 in the amount of $10,030.35 for CD traffic studies.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Okay, I was going to pull that. We'll try.
All right, Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Ms. Kasha?
yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenblatt? Mr. Villano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Yes.
I vote yes, so that's 6. 900.
I make a motion to pass Dawn Whittier invoice number 30 in the amount of $39,307.50 for design development.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Do we have a updated, budget? Remember before they were showing us the percentage of what's been used? Do we have that by chance? If not for today, maybe fun.
Yes, it could be in the backup folder on the invoice, but
I'll double check real quick.
send it
Usually in the backup.
Okay.
to you.
We certainly have it available to share.
I might have missed it when I was looking at it earlier.
In other words, I'm sure it exists. We're, I assume, still on budget.
Correct.
All right. Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Mrs. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenblatt? Mr. Villano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Aye.
I'm yes, it's 900.
And Melissa, I'm yes as well.
Oh, Dr. Conti John, all right, so we got 10.
Andrea, I found it. Thank you.
Mr. Rosenblatt? Okay. It's a hard time of night. All right, 10-0 on Dawn Whittier. And we have a solar update. Or do you want to, is that a schedule?
An overview of where we are
Yeah, so
on the timeline.
Yeah, so we just started like construction documents phase, and we have the first real major submission to MSBA will be in July. So we'll have a cost estimate set coming out in the end of June. So there'll be another pricing exercise in June. But as you kind of see, nothing's really changed. We're still targeting December for bid documents. So we'll got to hit the streets in December, and bidding will go through the end of January, early February. And hopefully construction will start March or April.
Work the dirt.
So we just want to do, again, another summary. We'd like to thank Roger and Ed Parsons for doing a lot of work to help us understand your bonding process and how to make this thing look, how it would work financially. So we just have a couple of, again, notes up here about what the benefits of the town owning the system versus going to a power purchasing agreement with a third party. And it looks like, there's obviously benefits on both sides, but the financials really are the thing that will probably sway you in the end. Again, so there's, obviously upfront costs to consider when you're going to buy it yourself. Also, you have to maintain it, so those are kind of negative things. But at the end of the day, you will own it, so that's kind of a benefit. So I think we went through these kind of the last time we're through here. A couple of things that have changed is that net present value. We've kind of tweaked it a little bit because we got additional proposals from our consultants, so we had a real number on the soft costs. So that went down quite a bit, and so that actually kind of made it a little bit more beneficial for the town purchasing option. That's why if you look there, it says 722,302 is the net present value for the purchasing option, and it's 842,191 for the PPA option. Slide. And then Vivian did this nice graph to kind of show when you might need to make a decision, and ideally, if you're going to purchase it yourself, it would be better to do it earlier rather than later. And if you kind of look up there, I think the target was to try to have the canopy design be done before we get to the 60% CD, which is what we talked about at the end of June. So if you did want to go that route, you would probably want to start thinking about signing up the team to get the design started.
So if I may interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to really briefly explain this, the upfront costs are what's in the green box. So the top row of milestones is what would happen if the town was to purchase the solar canopies as well as the PVs on the roof, as well as potentially battery. So there would need to be an upfront approved design fee, and in this case, it's in the $300,000, but as Neil said, it's somewhere in the $250,000 to $300,000 range. What's not shown here then is once design kicks into gear, there needs to be also an approval process for funding the town purchase. So that's not shown. I think we may have missed a Springtown meeting, so that will kind of fold into this whole first row of decision-making. But if somehow there's funding in place by, say, the summer, then as we kick into the last portion of construction documents, we may be able to fold in the construction details to install the PV canopies as part of our project. And then it would be folded into the construction after the school is completed, because actually the parking lot is not going to be able to be completed until the kids move into the new school and the existing school is demolished and the new parking lot is then constructed. And then the canopies then would follow that construction. That would happen in the spring, summer, after the kids move in. So that's kind of that first timeline if the town is to purchase. But, there's a lot of ifs. And there's some risk associated with approving design fees without knowing for certain that the whole project will be approved for purchase by the town. The second row of activities is if the town opts to go with a PPA, a power purchase agreement with a third-party solar company. And you'll see these, the green box means there is no outlay by the town for design fees. Everything, all the design is by the PPA. There's no cost to the town. And at crucial points, at milestones of our design phases, those nice yellow stars is when we would coordinate with the PPA. Does it have to happen during this design phase? Not necessarily. We have a good idea of what footings and foundations are like. If we have an idea of which PPA the town will be contracting with, we could start coordination with them as soon as that's decided. And then that project, that would be an independent project for sure, would go through its own permitting, and the construction would occur after the school project is complete. So those are kind of the main differences with the two processes. And as Neil said, it's kind of financially driven as well. So, go
Okay.
ahead.
Roger.
You're going to move on from the schedule, so that would mean the school would open using Eversource, not using canopies, right? Because of the-
In any situation, that'll be the case, because the other school will still be there. They're going to move in while the old Fox Hill is in place.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it'll be like 6 months, maybe, of
right. Anyway, it has to completely follow, the solar installation has to completely follow the school construction and maybe
Especially the
be
parking lot.
synchronized with the parking lot completion.
Because most of the solar panels are in the parking lot, actually, 60%. So.
All right, thanks.
Question?
Yep.
So my experience with solar is more looking for my house, so the PPA agreements typically have removal included on here. The prior slide, you have an additional cost for removal if we don't renew or purchase a system. Is that standard for business side?
We've talked to a couple of them. Most of them, they include removal,
Okay.
But it's at a cost.
at a cost.
Typically. So while the installation and design of the system is at no cost to the town, if at the end of the 20-year, if it's a 20-year contract, you opt to remove it, you basically agree, sign that into the contract that it's a removal. So we've talked to a couple of PPAs, and I think each one will kind of offer you something a little bit different. The rates are going to be a little bit different. But one of them basically said, you could, at the end of the contract, opt to purchase the PV systems, and they would sell it to you at a very, very, very low cost, because it's expensive for them to remove everything.
And my understanding from talking with some of the providers was that a lot of those panels are at end of life at that point.
Well, they seem to think it's like 35 years.
Okay, so it's expanded a little bit.
Yeah, but, they do produce less electricity over time, so
Right.
at 35 years, it's in the low 80s of what it is when it's brand new.
Okay,
But you're still getting essentially free energy if you own the thing, so.
all right, thank you.
I think one other consideration, and if it may have been discussed at the earlier slide, is that at about 20 to 25 years, we're going to need to consider re-roofing the building. So when you re-roof, then you need to consider what to do with the PV arrays on the roof. And that can be something that you basically work out with a PPA. They could move it, and they could move it back. They could remove it. You could sign up with another PPA, in which case I think that PPA will want the previous contract to remove the array. So there's a lot of different options, and I think if you elect to go the PPA route, I think we need to basically talk to a couple of these. I think there are two in town now, right? Onyx and Rise, I believe. It really would be good to kind of see what each of them can provide. We have something from Onyx, but
My question was going to be, we have existing PPAs now, right? More than one, two? At the high school and
Marshall-Simonson.
Marshall-Simonson, okay.
Yep, and the
So
town has.
we're not unfamiliar, it's with the town, I guess, or the school department, I don't know.
Yeah, the school department has two PPAs for
Okay.
Marshall-Simonson in the high school, and the town has a separate system at Mill Pond. I'm not familiar with the details
Okay.
of it,
Okay.
but that's with Rise.
Okay.
Rise Engineering.
Okay. Yeah,
And have we, again, with the current ones, do we have a plan that when the roofs get replaced, like, I'm just trying to, that was something new I didn't know, right? So it's like, do we, we talk about pre-planning, right? And not waiting till the roof leaks or whatever it is, do we start negotiating that prior to, say, okay, we're going to replace the roofs in, 2035, I don't know. And start working on that early, or how do you guys handle that?
So if the system works as designed, both the roof and the solar panels, we put a new roof on Marshall Simons and a new roof on the middle school 3 years before we put on the solar panels. We have a 30-year Firestone roof. It's a rubber roof. So we expect the 20-year life expectancy of the PPA to die sooner than the roof will. And then we have that choice at that point to, look at a 23 to 25-year-old roof. We do have roof contracts as well, so we currently maintain it to make sure that they're in optimal condition. But ultimately, when we get to that point, we have to decide whether to continue with a new PPA or take them off the roof and decide what we do with the solar anyways. And it almost coincides within a few years of the life expectancy of the roofs on the buildings.
So there's a playbook, should you decide to retire at some point, that the next person that takes over knows this, right? Okay.
Yep.
Jeff can do it, yeah.
You're projecting a bit.
Yeah, I'd expect that after 20 years, you'd have to reevaluate the whole situation of the roof and the panels, and maybe if the roof is still good for a while, you could stretch the panels, but it's too early to really have any concrete ideas about what would happen in
Sure, I just want to make sure that
2045.
there's a playbook. I want to make sure there's a playbook somewhere that's kind of, should somebody leave,
It might change.
people know. No, exactly, but it's like, here's the current plan, right? And so someone knows where to go to look it up, should something happen.
It's always good to have a plan. I think they will only last for so long. There will need to be a plan to deal with them, whether direct purchase or through a third party. So a lot of those things are the same, right? They'll only last so long. They'll need to be dealt with. They'll need to be thought of in conjunction with the age and condition of the roof. So all those things are sort of the same, but absolutely, as each of these vendors handle it a little bit differently, and it's all kind of part of the negotiation, something you definitely want to keep an eye on, depending on what is in place already in the town and what you have in terms of bargaining power to negotiate with the folks, how that enters into the equation and the entire package for design, install, maintenance, and replacement.
Sorry, just one more comment about the schedule. It's maybe pretty obvious that it would be nice in terms of the schedule to figure that out and get the PPA in place before any of the coordination points really passes. I don't know how aggressively, see how the decision gets made, but sooner is better, I think, in terms of planning.
I think that's why we're talking about it now.
Right.
Can we go to the next slide? Just one more comment. I mean, we design our roofs for 25 years. You'll have a 25-year warranty on the roof. So it should be good for those full 25 years. So it'll give you an extra 5 years if the PPA is 20 years. Sometimes they'll negotiate with you to extend it to 25 years, because if you have a 25-year roof, if you want to do that. It's an option.
Oh.
So,
Are you able to zoom?
could you zoom out a little bit? This is a lot of numbers, obviously.
Really. It definitely looks
So
like a lot of numbers.
This first one is with a battery?
This is with the battery, yep. So I think
I don't understand how we save more without a battery.
you don't save more
battery
without a
costs.
You
battery.
don't have to pay for the battery?
Maintenance, probably.
That's the biggest mystery for me. And,
Okay.
it'd be nice if we could save more energy and use it. But I think that there are differing estimates out there for the reliability of the battery and the risk, the technical risk. And so the PPA, if they're being smart, they're doing what I would do, which was to price in that risk. And so it actually costs more to do the contract with the battery because they're absorbing the risk of this kind of unknown. I don't think there's a lot of data on the latest batteries.
Batteries
over
require
20
replacement
years.
more often, so depending on what cell technology you use, you're gonna have to refresh them more often, because as you keep them charged, and they're not gonna, the state of health, it'll still be 100% able to charge, but its only capacity is 50%.
No, I mean, I get it. I just think it's
Things like that as they
ironic.
get older.
you save more in one scenario with a battery, and you save more in a different scenario without a battery. But I appreciate that.
Yeah, they bury the cost.
They are putting that in,
the,
yeah.
I mean, my guess is that the estimation of the incentives to have a battery is actually not quite enough to exceed the threshold. So in some sense, there are incentives to have a battery, to reduce peak pricing, et cetera. But they're just, whatever price point they picked, it's not enough to really sway the decision.
I think that's fair to say. I think that there's an IRA grant for about $700,000 for the battery. So the battery's about 1.1 million. So there's $300,000 or $400,000. You got a difference there. So I'll try to summarize this. So I know it's a lot of numbers. I think Ed was helpful in helping us figure out how to do your bonding, what that ended up would look like. So that's the first column. All those red numbers are a 20-year bond with exactly the same payments for each year. I don't remember what it summed to, but it was a little bit more than $4.5 million or something like that. The next column is kind of the annual maintenance costs, and I think it's 3% inflation rate or something like that increase. And then the third column would be the incentives, and those actually end after 20 years, so it's actually a good time to stop the comparison. The SMART incentive ends at 20 years. And then the utility savings, you can see, is the fourth column. And then I think using the net present value, it kind of ends up being about $722,000 saved over those 20 years if you build it yourself. And then on the right side, similar to columns, again, the first one, there's no cost to the towns for the system. The second one is what you're going to be paying to the PPA every year. So essentially, you're buying all of their electricity that they produce through the solar panels at the rate you agreed to. And that increases because we're going to increase the rate 3% every year. And then the column after that is the utility savings to the town, and then the next column is the avoided utility cost. And then, again, finally, the cash flow at that last column before the gray thing. So it ends up, looks like the PPA actually is more beneficial to the town in this scenario.
Are we estimating the increase
Battery.
in the energy cost? Is that our 3%, or is that would that be theoretically built into the PPA?
It would give you a fixed cost.
Oh, all right, great.
So it'll be like 19 cents per
Okay.
kilowatt hour for 20
That we buy
years.
for 19 cents.
Whatever they agree to.
Okay.
That's actually kind of a nice benefit too.
Yeah,
'cause
and
you
if
don't
you
have to
take
worry
away
about
the
it.
incentives on the purchase PV, that $722 is dramatically lower as well.
Yes, it would go much lower.
Yeah, okay.
And the incentives are, I can't remember what the sum was. It was at least a couple $1 million. So they're not
Okay.
nothing.
I noticed that there's a difference between the utility savings to the town and the avoided utility costs from Onyx. Do you know what the difference in the way that those numbers come out? I didn't notice that there were both of those columns there before.
I think,
I mean, they both seem to be avoided utility costs,
yes,
but the numbers are not
not the same.
the same, so
Sure.
I'm not sure it's salient.
Well, one looks like they gave it to us, and one looks like we calculated somehow, right?
Okay, I think
Right.
we kind of worked on this together, so I think what happened was originally we just had the avoided utility cost, which I took from Solar Design Associates.
Right.
And I used that for both of them to make them kind of compare apples to apples.
Right.
But Onyx also did their estimation of what the savings would be. So that's why that number's a little bit different.
Okay.
I don't think it's factored into the calculation. And then
Okay.
You don't need school committee approval to do this, do you? Like a PPA you've done, or is that a,
We would.
You would,
Just because
just
of the length of the
the
loan.
length? Oh, yeah, okay. Town meeting or school committee? Cole's online, right?
School
I think
committee.
Nicole will have to check on that, but
Oh, wait a minute, anything
with a
over,
20-year loan over 3 years would be,
anything
It's
over
not a
three?
loan, though.
Yeah, you're right, it's a purchase contract, it's not borrowing.
I know.
It is a contract.
Contract. So.
All right,
We'll have
yeah,
to get
we-
advice on
okay.
that.
Any contract that exceeds 3 years, we need town meeting approval for.
Okay. We do have to decide soon, I guess.
Yeah. And it's not going to be as contentious as the alternatives.
No, 100%.
Interesting, I don't remember town meeting approving the contracts for the solar here or Marshall Simons. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
So this next chart is if you have no battery, and it looks like you'd save even more money with the PPA versus the purchasing it yourself. I have to dig into those numbers. I don't remember them being that different. You know the spreadsheet, were they? Okay. Yeah, we'll look at it after. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So Ed put together these nice graphs, kind of show you in the upper left-hand one, the dashed lines are the two PPA ones that are nice and smooth because you're paying kind of a more similar amount every year to them versus the where you purchase it, you're going to have incentives that kind of are lumpy, so it's not quite as smooth a curve. And it also looks like you don't save as much money, so negative to that. Yes.
A note, so there's a tiny bit of financial engineering here in the purchase agreement. So all we're doing is taking out a loan to build and then taking that first year's incentive and pay off some of the loans. So it's a smaller payment then going forward, and that smooths out these curves. And we could arbitrarily take out loans and pay them back to smooth the curve, but we'd be signing up Mr. Denizio for a lot of calculations and a lot of transactions to do that. The PPA does that for you and just gives you a nice smooth curve of cash flows. It's just one of the advantages, because trying to smooth out those costs is one of the things that we spend a lot of time trying to do.
Ed, originally I thought the purchase, did something change? I thought the purchasing saved us more money originally.
I just worked with the assumptions that were given to us by the consultants. I could quibble over, fractions of a percent here and there on assumptions, but they know this better
Okay,
than we
no,
do.
that's all right. I thought for some reason it was
I think
logged in
they
my
got
head.
some new information, new quotes.
The original charts we didn't actually calculate the cost of borrowing it, what that cost you guys.
Okay,
We
that's
also
where
we assumed there was zero inflation essentially, because we just calculated the amount of dollars that you'd save over the 20 years, even though $1 20 years from now is not worth what $1 today is going to be.
That makes more sense, thanks.
Right, yeah, the biggest effect is the cost of borrowing, which is figured in here.
Okay.
And then, so just kind of in summary.
Melissa,
Yeah,
can I ask a quick question?
of course.
Neil, is there any difference in the rebate from the Inflation Reduction Act for some of this work if we do a PPA or purchase?
Well, if you do a PPA, they get all the rebates, so you don't get any of them. So you actually are.
No,
There's same rebates.
I didn't ask the right question, so I'm sorry. When we were calculating the incentives for the net zero building, and some of it was coming from Mass Save, and about 3.1 million or something was coming from the Inflation Reduction Act. Is any of that linked to whether we do a purchase or a PPA?
No, those are separate ones. It's like for the ground source heat pump, that's a separate IRA we'd be pursuing.
But the number that we have to hit is driven by having some solar panels.
No, it has to do with how efficient the building is, the energy efficiency of the building, how good the.
So it's completely separate, they're not connected at all?
No, it's independent. Part of it is it has to be an all-electric building, but you could get your electricity from the grid. You know what I mean? It doesn't require you to have solar panels to get those credits. They have different credits that they're pursuing for the solar that makes this more advantageous to the PPA and to the town.
So, Melissa, one of the things we discussed is if the bids came in under, which at the time seemed more realistic, that we could potentially use the lower bid cost to purchase solar panels. But if the bid environment is more volatile and the purchase price, we may need the purchase price to offset either a change in bid or a loss of the Inflation Reduction Act funding, it would seem to me that not putting out money for the solar panels would give us more flexibility or more options in the next, I don't know, 6 months, year, till we get a bid price?
I agree. Also, I think we don't have the time, like, it looks like we need to be doing this before bids in December. A lot of decisions, like all these asterisks are well before December. My suggestion was going to be to bring this to the regular school committee to maybe take a vote, which way we want to go, and bring an article to May town meeting.
And what?
Entering a PB, yeah.
There is a warrant article as a placeholder.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
For the purchase of it.
Purchase or PPA, but it seems like the PPA.
But again, we could obviously change that wording if the school committee decided.
Yeah.
Eric, is your question about what if we need more money for the project before we look at the solar panels?
The opposite. We were going to have potentially money left, like if the bids came in under, we could have had money to buy solar panels.
But that's potential, and
Right, and we could
and
use
what
that
if,
somewhere else.
under the current circumstances, the prices go up because of steel and, all kinds of things? So what do we do in that case? We might need all the money and not have any left over to buy solar
Correct,
panels.
but I don't think we would I'm not leaning towards buying solar panels.
Wouldn't double the savings.
So it's $1 million in savings
With no
with
battery.
the PPA, which costs us nothing upfront.
Okay.
And it's only $722,000 if we purchase them. And to everyone's point, there's a lot of risk that we take on if we purchase. We have to ask town meeting for $3 million, et cetera. And it doesn't change the incentives that we receive. It doesn't change the electricity of the building, but the sooner we make a decision, the better it is for the design of the project.
Who's the incentive from?
There's two. So there's the SMART program, which is the state, the Mass DOER, and then there's the IRA, which is the federal Inflation Reduction Act grants. Those are the ones that
Well, exactly.
everybody kind of worries about.
But either way, the panels, to be eligible for that, we need the all-electric building, which we have. You can, per Neil said, we can get the electricity, doesn't matter where we get it, we just have to, yeah.
Yeah, so also too, as we're talking about funding, the sooner we make a decision, the sooner the funding gets obligated and all that, right? Because if we go with this, we can put the incentives package in forward and
Correct,
basically
yeah.
earmark those funds to obligate them, correct? And then if the Inflation Reduction Act goes away, we still have that money earmarked because we've moved forward with that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you have a budget of $80 million.
That's what I'm saying. So will we meet the timeline to obligate the money sooner and it wouldn't go away? So like
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
that's why
it
I'm
probably
thinking
gets
about
written
federal
into the
funding.
agreement.
Yeah.
Nicole might be able to comment, like if the IRA does go away, maybe there's language in the contract that says,
That's what I'm saying. If
We'd
we get
have
in
to-
earlier, we can
Yeah.
obligate the funds sooner,
yeah,
is my point.
yes.
Just one point I would make is that if you try to wrap it into the existing, try to reuse the contingency funds or lower contracts, the result will still be that we'll have to be borrowing to pay for the panels if you're going to buy it. And I think a few people would take the considerations like, well, we should not obligate as little as possible, cut down the amount that we borrow and get passed on to ratepayers.
I mean, we can take a vote here.
And the PPA is almost not free,
I know.
but it's low risk.
I can add one more. I think we're all coming down on the same side. There are more risks in purchasing and more to coordinate, and more work for just about every party involved, except for the people we hired to do this because they're professionals. The thing that is going to be the biggest issue, I feel, is getting the borrowing done coincident with lots of other borrowing. And I foreshadowed this with the financial engineering comment, we also have to fit that borrowing of $3.5 million in with everything else the town is doing. And so if we're borrowing an extra $3.5 million for this project, it's $3.5 million we have to defer for something else, and we need to make all those, Tetris pieces fit. And that is risk and cost.
Well, we're going to entertain a motion.
Yeah, do you want to, should we put it on a school committee agenda item we have the placeholder warrant we can decide at the school committee? Does that make sense?
Wait, sorry, what are you proposing the
I was
school
just
committee
to make a
decides?
motion
We need
that
to-
we recommend as the
Sure.
Fox Hill School Building Committee to the school committee, right? Just to formalize
sure.
the process and say, yep, we want to go one way or the other.
Sure.
Whatever. So I guess I'll make a motion to have the Fox Hill Building School Committee recommend the utilization of a power purchase agreement without battery. Be recommended to the school committee as the preferred path.
Second.
Everyone following?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does that include the canopy and the rooftop panels, or are we separating them? Is the motion include both in this
I
one?
think we need them both, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, but my assumption when making the motion was that it included both based on the previous briefing.
Just wanted to make sure.
I have a question.
Is there any hands?
No.
All right. All right. Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Volano?
Yes.
Ms. Priest?
Aye.
And Mr. Rosenblatt messaged he was having connectivity issues, but,
He's on.
I'm on,
Okay.
yes.
awesome. I'm a yes, let me count now, 3. 1200. All right, so we'll put that on the school committee to update the warrant for the contract of the PPA.
Great,
Awesome.
an issue settled.
Yeah?
This work.
Just a point, so Oliver at Onyx,
Okay.
do you want to have a series of PPAs present proposals, or just do the one that's already there?
I'm going to defer to Nicole
Okay.
on that.
Because they probably will all be slightly different.
Okay.
And you'll have to look at what makes the most sense for the
Okay.
town.
Nicole, you want to sync with Neil offline, and then we can figure out how we want to enter into a
Yep.
PPA? Okay.
We can do that.
Okay.
All right, sounds good, thank you.
If I may,
Yes.
I'm not sure I understood exactly. I know we just voted to go ahead with the PPA. It sounds like there's more than one company we could discuss it with. And I thought, I just heard people, I'd like to know if we're going to ask for multiple bids, and if there's, Nicole would be the one who would know about bid process, but I would encourage us to use different bids because they may offer different advantages or disadvantages. And I know in the past, I think Bob has done this kind of on his own, but I just wouldn't want us just to go with Onyx because we've already talked to them. So can someone explain what the plan is? Thank you.
Cole?
Nicole, do you want to just say what you've done in the past and what you're leaning towards here?
So I wasn't on the school side
Okay.
when we entered into the other agreement.
ago.
So
All right, Martha, we'll get an update.
But Nicole, isn't it in general, you
Yeah.
need to solicit multiple bids for anything of some size?
yes, but sometimes there's exemptions and other stuff. So I'd have to look into it a little bit more.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're looking at different options, and not just for the bid process, but also for what are the advantages and disadvantages of going with different companies. Thank you.
Excited.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that helps.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ed and Roger, really helpful. All right, so we just wanted to provide a quick update on the playground. This is, what's on the screen is what we presented back in December, and I know that there were some comments, concerns that it was not providing as much accessibility as we all would like it to. So we've gone back, taken a look at how to balance challenging elements with also elements that would provide as much inclusivity as possible and accessibility. So we've taken, so if you look at this image, it's kind of planned north, right? So the school would be on the left-hand side, and the lower element, which is the one that spreads more, is to the north, whereas the climbing element, which is the image on the upper right-hand corner, is on the south side, closer to the field. So when we took a look at how we could add some ramps and some more accessibility for wheelchairs without having to transfer, it required more space. So we kind of rejiggered it a little bit, and actually, if you can go to the next, actually the slide after this, you'll see that we flipped the lower climbing elements with the tall one. So the tall one is now, when you drive up to the site, you'll see the tall element further back, and the one that has the more features actually kind of front and center, closer to the fields. So we did not swap out all of the structures. Are pretty much the same, but we were able to add a couple of ramps, and what you see highlighted in yellow are all the elements that do not require transfer out of a wheelchair. So the lower elements that is looking like a little bit yellow blob are a couple of ramps. The first one leads to an 8-inch high platform that has panels that are interactive, and when we get a little further, we can show you some options for those panels, because there are a lot. And then that will take you up to another ramp that's another 8 inches up, and from that ramp we're able to transfer to this sway. It looks like the teacups ride at Disneyland, but I don't think it spins. It just kind of sways. But what's really great is it accommodates more than just a few kids. So someone in a wheelchair, someone with a stroller, anyone can basically go up the 2 ramps and enter onto this Sway Fun feature, and we have images of that as well. So that will take someone in a wheelchair all the way up there, and then if depending on the ability, the kids can actually transfer from the wheelchair onto the next set of steps, 2 steps, and then onto the next platform, and then onto another, and they can take a ride down the slide. There are also a couple of transfer points where they don't need to go up the ramp. We're required by ADA to have a couple of at least one transfer point to get a child up to transfer from a wheelchair onto the play structure. So that we can kind of work with you to decide where we want it. Right now it's at the lower platform, but it might be nice to put it up closer to the platform that goes up to the 48 inches. And that way that'll get the kids up and down the slide quicker than having to navigate, more platforms. So that's the lower play area. The 2 circles are freestanding play elements. The one just to the north of the play structure is a we-go-round, which is like a merry-go-round, but it is completely flat to the surrounding rubber surface. So again, no transfers required. The wheelchairs can wheel right in. Kids can actually spin around. There's a device in the center. I think you guys have probably seen these at some of the.
We have one at
playgrounds,
Francis
right?
Wyman,
Okay.
yeah.
So you guys, I don't need to explain it. But that is just really a fun little element. The larger circle to the north of that is a Gaga pit, and I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that, but it's like a corral where the kids are in there, some with a wheelchair, some able-bodied kids, and they're I honestly don't know how this game is played, so I can't explain.
It sounds like dodgeball in a
It's
container.
knee dodgeball, yeah.
Right, I don't know if they can use their hands or they kick it, but it's also a really inclusive piece of equipment. So again, because it's on this rubber surface, it's totally accessible, wheelchair accessible, as well as for any other kids. So those are the elements that do not require transfer. The large climbing element, the one you see on the upper right-hand corner, the one that we flipped over, is also considered accessible. So if you're able to transfer out of your wheelchair, you can actually get in, climb all the way, scooch all the way up to the top, and go down the slide. So these structures are designed to be as inclusive as possible, but also to provide challenge also for the more able-bodied kids. And then again, the swings, we have a set of 10, and one of those is it requires transfer, but it's an accessible swing. And if you go to the next slide, I think that might help. So this kind of shows those elements. The one that looks like a big boat, that's the one that is called, further, Sway Fun. I apologize. I meant to look it up to see what the actual movement is, but I think it does kind of rock back and forth. And then the one right in front is called a wee-saw, so it's like a seesaw, not like the old-fashioned seesaw. It allows 4 kids. And again, there's space for a child to transfer from a wheelchair onto one of those seats. So I think that we've done a pretty good job trying to balance everything. Just wanted to see what your comments are, and actually if we go through the rest of the slides, you can see images, better images of all of these. Another view, and here's a close-up view of the climbing structure, and you'll see, I don't know if you can really see, but a child transferring from the wheelchair onto the lowest level of that climbing structure and then scooching up. And we also have a video that we could share. I don't know if we want to play it today, but we can certainly send it around. Let's actually navigate on this piece of equipment. And then the next slide shows all of the actual pieces of equipment. So there's the We-Go-Round, the Sway Fun. That's actually the upper two, on the right are Sway Funs, and the Wee-Saw and the Gaga Pit. So would love some feedback. I know that David and Eric's seen this, but love to have some comments.
Is the one accessible swing enough out of 10?
I mean, originally I had thought of adding a platform swing where a wheelchair user can just roll right on and go in. That was another non-transfer item that I thought would be really useful. Something that came up in our discussions about the playground at Francis Wyman. I'm not sure that we had the space for it there, but if we have the space for it here, I think that would be great. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
your
I know you're
questions.
more familiar with that. And then the second question I had was, it's maybe two-part. The canopies, I appreciate seeing them there. I'm wondering, is this something that comes down in the winter is one part of it? And the second part is how functional these are in comparison to like a larger setup like we have at Wildwood, where the sides are more covered, because that's typically where the kids end up sustaining injuries when the weather's hot. The sun gets those slides cooking, and then
Yeah. You can, actually, if you slide back 2 slides, you could, one more. You can kind of see the shadows that, I think they've done a pretty good job trying to show what it would
cover.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think these actually cover nicely because they're a little bit more broad than the hard plastic ones that are just kind of sit over the platform. But we could certainly look at different.
Yeah, though they have like sails up at.
I think it's like completely freestanding. Like it's not attached to
Yeah, it's over the playground, but
like
further
one
out.
big one over all the.
Yeah.
And then my question was, is in the winter, is these something that maintenance would have to like take down?
These do not come down.
They stay.
Right.
Okay.
Not so sure about the overall sale, but these
Salem
do
one does
not.
come down.
In the winter, okay.
Through the chair, I want to thank you all for the work that you did putting this together. It shows some really great options. It's a lot of things that had come up at Francis Wyman as well. The Sway Fund was one item that we talked about and considered. The WeGo Round is in place there. And I think the Seesaw is a great addition as well. I also like the idea of having the Gaga Pit on the poured in place solid surface. I think it'll be great, keep the kids from being in the mud when it is a little wet outside. I think all the teachers and families will appreciate that as well. And I think that, the one thing I was going to bring up, but Jen, you did a nice job of introducing, was the swing. I think that having something like that would be a big benefit. And really, we don't have anything else like that in town. And I think having something like that, if we do have the opportunity in this space, would make a big difference. But I know also the other thing I wanted to mention was the transfer site. I did like your idea of raising it to a higher level. Yeah, thank you.
And we'll look into the platform swing. It's pretty tight. We wanted to keep within our current layout in terms of the port in place. So if that needs to fit in there, then one of the other freestanding.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be open to seeing options. I think it is a give and take. Maybe we would add another type of swing, or one of the ones like a bucket swing with the harness in the front, or if there's space.
Let us take a look at that, and maybe at the next meeting we can definitely provide some other options.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Vivian, I just wondered if you had a chance at all to look at the Childscapes products. I know they have a lot of handicap accessible stuff.
We took a quick look, and we were kind of far along with this one, but we can definitely do a comparison.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea.
What that, yeah.
They did a little work up at Fox Hill. They did the, whatever you call that thing.
SIBO?
Like a pavilion, or what do you call it?
Gazebo?
Yeah, if you call it that.
Okay.
But they're familiar with the site, and they do have some great products for handicap accessibility.
We can see if
It's just a thought.
we can provide a separate layout.
Yeah, whatever.
Chris, I have heard good things about that company as well.
Yeah,
it would be
it's a very good
worth looking
company.
into.
I'm familiar with one of their playgrounds. It's down on the South Shore. That it's a huge draw, and the families love it.
We'll do that.
Okay, so we have some upcoming meetings listed here. Danisco's working their way through construction documents. We've had a couple meetings pop up here and there to refine the drawings. We have some tomorrow. We're meeting with IT. We are meeting with the police department, the fire department. We will be going before planning board quite soon, and that runs concurrently with Concom. And then we're looking at the MSBA 60% submission, as Neil mentioned earlier, which will come with another estimate. We also met, I think, was it last week, to begin reviewing the interior graphics.
Yeah, so I don't know if you recall, but we have several areas in the school that provide great opportunity for what we call environmental graphics. And these are large-scale wall graphics that provide inspiration and fun. And we're actually working with a graphic designer who's kind of come up with a great story, which is a walk in the woods. So that's kind of our theme for some of the graphics that we're looking at, just kind of drawing from the surrounding environment from Fox Hill, because it's just, there's so much nature out there, right? So, so our next steps now is to actually provide, get feedback for content. Because while we have this great storyline, we want to be able to draw some. She's a great artist as well. She's going to provide some beautiful art, but that art needs to say something. So we're going to be working with the science curriculum folks, Wendy and Sean and David, and we'll come up with some inspirational themes for each of these moments. We call them moments within the building. And when we have something to share, hopefully in the, maybe not next month, but the following month, we'll definitely want to share that with you. So that's what this interior graphics working group is.
Great. Initial feedback from David, and we will carry on expanding the group. And then we recently were able to schedule our MSBA design status meeting at the beginning of next month. I'd like to bring up a topic.
Before we move on, if I could comment on that, please?
Sure.
In terms of this graphic wall, what is being done for helping educate kids about the sustainability features of the building and the project? And could that be included in this wall?
Yes. That's the easy answer, Martha. Yes.
So has it already been included in the discussions?
Well, it's currently being designed. We're early in the design process, so we're looking at incorporating signage throughout the building that talks about sustainability.
Okay.
So that'll kind of work with this hand in hand. Yeah.
So the signage is educational for the kids and stuff?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Vivian actually caught that one of the invoices listed was the incorrect amount. So I was wondering if we could revote Danisco invoice 10165.
Which one?
10165.
10165.
10165, okay.
It's in the amount of $4,950.
Does that mess up?
A discount.
They were
So it's
bunched together.
4,950 versus 9,157?
Yes, I duplicated those two numbers by accident instead of.
Should be the same.
Could we revote just that one, or should we revote the whole thing?
No, we did them individually.
No, we didn't.
We did. We didn't do them all at once.
We did one vote. You mentioned them individually, but we only took one vote.
I was wondering, would an amendment work?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What are we changing?
Just a
The
dollar
amount
For which one?
10165.
Hold on.
So it's being changed from 9,157.50 to 4,950?
Yes.
This is a Danisco one?
Yes. Yes.
See how they're the same, 2 and 3?
Yes. What should they be?
The third one should be $4,950.
Oh, boy.
We can make an amendment, I
Yeah.
think.
I think amendment would work.
Wait a minute. It's going to be less, right?
Correct.
So why don't we vote to rescind that vote?
Then we have to read them all over again instead of doing an amendment for the one invoice number. It's up,
Just trying to be safe, it's, I would rescind it. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't amend it. It's too late. You can't amend it. You can only amend it while it's on the floor. It's not on the floor.
Okay.
All right, I mean, it's up there, so just read
So I'll
the
make a-
change. Yeah.
I'll make a motion
as
to rescind the
displayed.
earlier vote,
Yeah.
and then we'll re-vote on the invoices.
Okay.
Second.
Sorry. Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Aye.
All right, 12 to rescind. I vote aye.
So you have to make a new one just for the,
Okay, I make a motion to approve Danisco invoice number 10163 in the amount of $346,200 for Design Development 505. Danisco invoice number 10164 in the amount of $9,157.50 for geotechnical services testing. Invoice number 10165 in the amount of $4,950 for geotechnical services final borings. And Danisco invoice number 10166 in the amount of $10,030.35 for CD traffic studies.
second.
Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Aye.
Mr. Wojcik?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Dr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Kuna?
Yes.
Mr. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mrs. Priest?
Aye.
I vote aye, 12-0-0.
Sorry to be a pain about that, but
You're
bit of
more
a
familiar with this than
stickler on those things.
Done it many more times.
Thank you very
Okay,
much
I make a motion to,
You're good.
Dawn Whittier's fine.
did,
Never
yeah.
mind, okay. Oh, my gosh.
Making all the motions.
Have another drink, Catherine.
No, I need one as well.
Any other new topics?
No?
I don't think public joined, but
Anyone? John, I saw John Deere. Nope. Any motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, folks. 7 o'clock.
4 minutes.
Sorry. Probably didn't even need to charge my
Said that one, yep. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Better with the numbers.
Spreadsheet all day.
Well, and understanding how they actually